Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with your host, Christina Nitschmann.
Join our mailing list today by texting Savvy Radio to find out about upcoming guests and events and receive a free gift, how podcasting can help increase sales and influence in your business. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. This is your host, Christina Nitschmann. Each week on Savvy, we support individuals and successful individuals in sharing their expertise, knowledge, tips, and stories with the world. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. This is your host, Christina Nitschmann. Our first guest today is Sandee Lester, author of GPS to a Joyful Marriage and When Superheroes Fall. She draws upon her personal experiences of a marriage headed for divorce and how God helped save her marriage. Find out more about Sandee at sandeelester.com. Duana C. Welch, Ph.D., shares what science says about marriage versus cohabitation. You'd be surprised at the results. And find out more about Duana Welch at lovesciencemedia.com. Hi, Sandee. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you?
I'm fine, Christina. It's so good to be here. I'm honored to be one of your guests.
Oh, I'm honored to have you join us. I was really intrigued when you wrote to me about your book, GPS to a Joyful Marriage, and share with us the whole coming about for
Well, we actually, our first 7 years of marriage, my husband thought they were going well, but we had some rough spots, and he was in the military. We moved around a lot. I had 2 small children. I wasn't very happy being away from my family, and he was married to his job, did not give me a lot of help. And I started having issues, but I kind of covered them. And then my father passed away suddenly. He was 61, and my parents had divorced when I was 16, so it was kind of like all of these issues kind of bubbled out that I had been suppressing for so long. And I thought, I don't want to be married. And then I happened to be working at a dinner theater at that time, and there was a man there who was very attentive to me, and he was the one person who helped me through the grief of my father dying. And we were friends, but that led into much more than that. And at one point, I thought I was going to leave my husband and start a life with this man. But this little voice kept saying to me, "I'm not going to be happy if you divorce your husband." And I'd grown up in church, and I was playing the piano at a church there, but really not. That was about all I was doing. And so I knew it was probably God trying to get my attention. And one thing led to another. He kind of just kept, reminding me of things and questioning things with me. And he led me to the point of deciding that I needed to work on my marriage. And long story short, my husband got an assignment to Germany that I wasn't going to go with him to, but then God kind of convinced me I needed to take that leap of faith. So I did, and we both started going to church together, and we started doing a Bible study together, and we started seeing about a relationship with Jesus, and we started learning about how our relationship with each other should be. We didn't really know before. And it just really turned things around. And I mean, we look at it that God miraculously saved us, because I really didn't want to do it if it wasn't for him kind of nudging me along. I would have said, "Yeah, I'm out of here." But I did not want to put my children through the pain of divorce that I had known as a child. And that was a huge issue for me to decide, okay, I need to at least give my marriage a chance.
Wow. So. This is so intriguing for me, because I've had a number of friends who've gone through menopause or gone through a turn or stage in their life. One woman I know, she's the mother to my closest friends. After a period of time of being married, probably close to 30 years, she loved her husband dearly, but she did everything in the house like you did for, in your And her husband, it wasn't that he didn't want to help. It was kind of like, you know how it is when you set a certain way in your relationship that, hey, I'm the one who does XYZ. And then the other one said, okay, I'm the one that provides. And you kind of get stuck in these roles without realizing that each of you might be feeling a little resentful for being in those roles.
Yep. And the thing is around the house, and I tell a lot of couples we counsel that most men, there are exceptions, don't know what to do around the house. Yeah. We have to tell them, but we think they should figure it out. What? You can't read my mind. I mean, if your girlfriend was over, you guys could clean up the whole house and not say a word to each other, but it doesn't work that way with husbands. You have to tell them. You have to ask for their help over and over. Mm-hmm. And that's where we fail. We don't want to do that as women, and that's such a huge issue in marriage.
It is. And what was so intriguing about this for my friend is that my friend's mom called me one day and she said, okay, I'm really at my wit's end because no one ever helps me here, including the kids and my husband. And I've had enough. I'm ready to, and she wasn't going to leave her marriage, but she was like, I'm just going to go on a hiatus or something. Yep. And I said, have a meeting, have a family meeting. And she's like, that's what I'm doing. Don't call us tonight. Don't come over. We're having a family meeting. I was like, okay. They were shocked because they didn't know she was unhappy, but she never told them that she really needed help. And when you just said that, it makes so much sense. Sometimes we just bottle it inside saying, well, that's my job. I'm the wife. I'm supposed to take care of the house. I'm supposed to take care of the kids. I'm not supposed to burden my husband. Or he should know better. Like if I'm really stressed with the kids, he should know that he should help them take a bath or take out the garbage. Why does he not see that I'm stressed?
Our girlfriends would see it, Our best friends would see it. But, husbands aren't wired the same way. They don't pick up on this stuff. You have to be really blunt with them. So, it took me a long time to learn that, to figure that out.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you just said that key word, they're not wired the same way. And I think to have an understanding for how your husband's, boyfriend's, significant others work is to realize that guys are just wired differently than women. They're not the same.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I think our society has made a big mistake in thinking we are the same because women are trying to be the same as men, but we're so different. It's not a matter of better or equality. We're different.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we had another woman talking about how, and she comes from a scientific perspective, how, people seem to think, well, this is the modern day age. We should all just be living together. Or, forget the marriage piece of paper thingy. We just live together. Mm-hmm. And science actually found that that's a bad idea. Now, what have you seen from your experience that cohabitating versus marriage?
Oh, absolutely. That you're odds of staying together are much less if you just live together. Because you don't have that commitment. You can just walk out the door and not even think twice about it because you didn't go through the whole marriage thing. And it makes a huge difference. And it's devastating on the kids too because a lot of these couples don't stay together. And I've seen so many, like women in particular, who have children from numerous men, and they jump from relationship to relationship, and these kids are just so messed up from it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now, for you, once you started to get that nagging feeling from God that, hey, things are just not quite right here, what was the first kind of thing that you felt the need to do? Like, how did you decide to first start going about fixing your marriage? Did you have a chat with your husband and say, hey, I'm not happy here, or how did it work out?
Well, he knew I wasn't happy. We were having a lot of issues. We were arguing a lot, and he knew I might not go to Germany with him. He had gotten an assignment to go to Germany. He was in the military. And so things were very difficult. My father had passed away, and I kind of hit rock bottom. I was in a deep depression, and he didn't know what to do. And I read a book about a couple that went through a similar experience, and God saved their marriage. And it occurred to me that if I didn't at least give my marriage a chance, I might never know happiness again. I might wind up like my father, who left my mother for the other woman and had nothing but hardship his life, and then died of a heart attack at 61, which looks really young to me now. And so I thought, and then I thought, I don't want to do that to my children. I don't want to put them through that pain of divorce. And I decided to ask God. I thought, okay, God, you're telling me not to do this. I was kind of testing God because I wanted to see if he was real, if he was going to be there for me. So I started praying to him. I said, Lord, show me how to love my husband. That's all I did because I didn't know I didn't know how else to pray, and I didn't know what else to do. I was so depressed. So I just, that was my prayer. And he started showing me bit by bit. He started reminding me of things from our past, reasons I fell in love with him, reasons I marry him, which is what a lot of people tend to forget. They push that down into the basement. They don't look at it. But it's so important to keep your relationship alive is to remind yourself why you love this person. Because I tell you what, marriage is tough. You're going to have moments where you go, I'm out of here. I've had enough. You got to remind yourself why you married this person. And you've got to keep that in your, forethought. And that made a huge difference for me. That was the beginning for me to take that leap of faith to go to Germany.
And that's awesome that you were able to see, oh, yes, I remember when we fell in love because of XYZ. When you said, show me how to love my husband, were there other things you were shown, like, be more understanding, or did other things come up for you as you were? Yeah.
Actually, what really did it for me was I went to visit a friend when I was in this all-girl show band, and we traveled around the world. In fact, I met my husband in Korea. I played the keyboards and sang. I went to visit some of the girls that were in the band with me. They're always going to be girls to me. Here I am, not so young as I used to be, but they're still girls. But anyway, I went to visit them, and the one girl and I went out one evening because we used to love to go out and dance. That was kind of what we all did together. So we went out, and I didn't really feel like dancing. I kind of was struggling. So I sat there, and I was watching the people on the dance floor. And I started thinking about how my husband and I used to love to dance together before we were married. We'd spend hours. We loved it. We fit together. And suddenly I was missing him, and I had not felt that for him in a number of years. And I just had this excitement, like, wow, it was the first positive thought I'd had about him in quite a while. So I went home, and I called him. He was in Germany. It was the middle of the night for them, and I just was like, wow, there's hope. I mean, that kind of thing. God started actually reminding me of things with my husband. So it was pretty amazing.
Wow. I love that we're going here because I know my partner, we're not married yet, but we've known each other 10 years. And
wow.
Yeah. It's amazing. And now I look back at when we first met and things get kind of stale. We don't live together either. He has his own place. I have my own place. But we get so used to each other as friends that we take each other for granted and just the little things. And
right.
And just the other day, I was thinking, oh, we used to do this or we used to do that. Like every Saturday, I used to cook at my house and do a big thing, like put a candle out and a nice dinner and a tablecloth. And it would look like we were going to a fancy restaurant. He would call my house the bistro. But I've not for years done that. I've been so busy with work and creating this business that we stopped doing the date nights. And, hearing you say this is, I think, on the road where a lot of marriages start to go downhill because you get into a rut and a habit and then you stop paying attention to each other.
Exactly. And you have to keep the spark alive. You sound like an old married couple.
I know. That's what people say to us. They said, they think we're married. Well, yeah, that's amazing. Would you say, was your biggest takeaway from all of this, writing the book and going through the transformation with your husband?
How important it was for me to put God first in my life. That was just because I saw him pull me out of this miry pit. I mean, I was so depressed. I didn't want to live. I had days I didn't want to live, but I knew that wasn't right either. And he just pulled me out of there and turned things around and returned my love for my husband that I had once had, but magnified it like 100 times. It was love like I hadn't known before for him. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. So I saw the importance of having God in my life. That was the absolute thing that I took out of this.
Wow. Yeah. Now, share that for me, that you got to a point where you loved him magnified. And how was that? What's different that you feel that much more love for your husband?
Because I think we got everything out on the table. We got our relationship right. We learned how to communicate. We didn't know how to communicate when we were first married, which is usually the biggest issue for most couples. Mm-hmm. And we learned about putting God first. I remember getting married thinking, I can't imagine loving God more than my husband. Really? Aww. I'm supposed to do that? You know? I learned the hard way. But, it just, because when we go to God for everything, I mean, he blesses things so much more than trying to do it on our own. I mean, I just kind of have really worked on walking the path that he has planned for me, because we all have a path. He has a plan for each and every one of us. And for my husband and me, it was a marriage ministry, but we had to go through this terrible time that we almost divorced, so we could, as it says in the Bible, we could comfort others as he comforted us. You know, we could reach out to others because we'd been there. You know, they say that couples do better counseling with other couples who've been there rather than someone who has all these degrees and, you know, has been to school. Yeah. Because someone who's been there can relate, you know?
Wow. Well, I love that you said that, because for me, I mean, there's times in my life where God will show me a path and it seems really, really hard, like me creating this business. It really came about from prayer. And I was like, no, not me. Each time, in fact, my partner, Brian, when we met 10 years ago, 4 months into letter writing, that's how we met. God told me in prayer that this is your husband. And so once we started meeting physically for dating, I said, okay, so when are we getting married? Because I told him shortly after we started dating, that this is what God told me in prayer. So, okay, so when's the wedding date? So I kind of scared him to death. And
yeah.
You with any normal man.
Yes.
And then his family, not knowing me very well, were also very sketchy. Like, who are you? We barely know you. And letter writing is not the same as like really getting to know someone intimately. So they just thought, you just came out of the woodwork and you want to marry our son. Why? So they were kind of suspicious in the beginning. Now we have a deep bond, all of us. But for years, I was trying to push okay, we have to go down the aisle. We have to go down the aisle. I know you're my husband. Let's go down the aisle. What are we waiting for? Come on. And then I think 3 years ago, I let go and stopped fighting and said, when it's God's will, when it's God's time, he told me this is my husband. Be patient. It will happen when it's supposed to happen. You know, not in our time, in God's time. And I think that's sometimes the hardest thing for me to remember, to follow God's will, but also remember in his time, not
Oh, that is the hardest thing for me, because I'm a make things happen person, and I'm not patient. And he's had to push me back a number of times and say, be still, just sit and be still. And that's so hard for me.
Yeah.
But a lot of people struggle with that, no doubt, waiting for him.
Absolutely. So this is totally awesome that you started marriage counseling ministry. How has that come about now? Do you see a lot of couples? Do you come together where you live? How does that look?
We do. Well, actually, we started this like 24 years ago. Because we'd be at a church and the chaplains would say, because we were at a lot of base chapels, would say, hey, would you mind talking to this couple for us? So we started doing that. And then we started teaching classes. And then I just kind of started gathering all this information over the years, and we started counseling couples pretty constantly. And from what I got from the couples, what I saw as the main issues in marriage, I started writing down, and I started looking for biblical answers. So what we do is we take every issue that we see and we apply biblical principles. So I mean, I got all this information that we started doing marriage seminars. We would go to church. We still do that. We go to churches and we can do like 4 to 6 hour seminars, or we do marriage retreats. We'll go for the weekend. In fact, God has put on our heart, someday we're going to have an affordable marriage retreat, because retreats are very expensive for couples. A lot of people can't afford. So my husband and I both have shared this for a number of years, that's our dream down the road, hopefully sooner than later. That's what I've been waiting for a while. But anyway, so we've coupled counsel couples and do marriage seminars, and I started writing everything down that we came up with for our seminars. That's where my GPS to a Joyful Marriage came from, everything that we do in our seminars. And I kind of kept it short and sweet so men would read it too. Yes. Because a lot of them are going to go, I don't want to bother with it. And it's got a car theme to it because I love cars. And actually the car on the front of it is a cartoon image of a 1938 Buick that I have. My father restored in 1964. Ooh. So it's kind of real, it's to the point and pretty honest. I'm very transparent in my writing about, and I share personal experiences so people go, oh, wow, she's been there,
Yeah.
So, which people need to hear. Oh my gosh, you just see that we're missing out. I mean, there's so many books out there that tell you, okay, this is how you do it. And I can remember when my kids were little thinking, oh, good heavens, these books don't have a clue, When you're in the midst of it, how do you apply that, So that kind of was something I looked at in this book, too, that I wanted people to be able to take it and apply it to whatever they're doing in their marriages. Yeah.
And Sandee, a good point to make is I think people really trust as credible experts someone who actually has been there. Now, I think a million degrees is great, but you having been there really seals the deal because now you're like, okay, you have experience. I think the real experience pays off. If you have a book experience, great, but if you don't have real world experience, I don't think you trust
exactly.
it. If you talk about, hey, this is what happened, I've been around the road and things have been tough for me. My one friend told me early on when I started Savvy, I'd written a blog where I talked about my mistakes and what I learned. And she's like, why would you do that? No one will ever hire you now. That's not true.
It's not true. No.
Yeah, because I think people really get to connect with a real life human being. They're like, I get that. I've been there. You get me. Yeah, so I totally get that.
And that's the best way to get to people. I mean, because you're on their level. Because unfortunately, as authors or speakers, whatever, or pastors are a great example. They get put on a pedestal and you think, oh, they don't have any problems. I think the best thing a pastor can do is be transparent and stand up there and say, hey, this is what I've done. Look where I am, Yeah. But
I'm human.
So,
I'm making mistakes. I'm learning just like the rest of you.
We're going to keep making mistakes,
Yeah. And you had said early on in your marriage, one of the things you really didn't have a handle on, you and your husband, was communication skills. And you said you had learned that and you help other couples. What is the number one communication thing that couples don't really do with each other or have problems with when it comes to communications?
Men and women communicate differently. Men are logically driven. Women are emotionally driven. We go by feelings. Oh my gosh, how did that make you feel? Well, men, my husband always says the most substantial conversation he's ever had with his friends is who's the greatest football player, it's kind of like they don't really go there. So I know there are times where I'm having an emotional time and I'm just crying and, oh, I can't believe this. And my husband has this deer in the headlight look, like, what in the world do I say? What's wrong with her? Because we're so emotional, and some of us more than others. I'm pretty emotional, but most of my friends I'm seeing, this is a woman thing. Yeah. And I know Mark Gungor is one of my favorite pastors. He has Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. He talks that men's brains are all separated by these boxes. They put a thought in one box, close the door, don't think about it again. They go to another box. They only look at one box at a time. Whereas women, they have connectors. And this is scientifically proven that women have connectors that connect the right side of their brain to the left, and men don't have that.
Oh, wow.
So women connect everything. We're thinking constantly. I mean, have you ever heard, if you want to know what a woman is thinking, open 2,588 browsers in your window at once. And that's what she's thinking, Wow. So put these two kind of people together, no wonder we don't communicate well. We have to learn how to do it, unless you come from a functional family where your parents did. And, there's not a lot of that either. I came from a very dysfunctional family. We didn't talk. I wasn't allowed to voice my opinion. I wasn't allowed to say anything. My father ruled the nest. So I went into marriage thinking that's how my husband would be.
Wow.
I had to learn that, hey, I could say things. I could stand up and voice my thoughts. Mm-hmm. But it took me a while. It took us going through this crisis to realize, hey, we weren't doing it right. My husband thought everything was fine and dandy. He didn't realize because I wasn't talking, I was having issues. So that's the biggest problem right there, that women don't always communicate correctly what's really going on, because we have so many thoughts going on. It might be something from yesterday that's bothering us, but we're going to talk about, well, today, blah, blah, blah. So no wonder men can't figure us out, because we can't always say what's bothering us. We don't always know.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good point, Sandee. You just got me thinking about something, because there'll be times where I'm really, really upset about something, but I don't know how to logically put it rationally into words.
Exactly. And men are logical, so they're going to look at you like, really? What?
Yeah, tell me what it is.
Right. They want to fix it. They want to fix it. And we just want to talk about it, because that's how we solve things, by talking about it, but we don't want them to tell us how to fix it. And that's a big, problem that comes along too.
Yeah.
With couples.
Did you see that YouTube video with the nail in the head and the girlfriend and the boyfriend?
No, I don't think so. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Oh, my gosh.
Very funny.
It's so true. It's so true.
Absolutely. Anyone listening in, go check it out. It's nail in the head of a girlfriend or something like that. And basically, the girlfriend has an actual nail in her head, and she's trying to tell the boyfriend her problems, that she's in pain, and they don't show you in the video at first that she has a nail in her head. And then the boyfriend keeps trying to tell, well, maybe if you in their head, and he's like, stop telling me what to do. Stop trying to fix me. It's so true.
So true. Yes, it is.
This has been fabulous, Sandee. Well, I want everyone to find out, if they're in your area, if they can attend one of your workshops in the future, how they might be able to do that, find out more about you. How do they do that?
They go to our website. The name of our ministry is Resurrection Power Marriage Ministry. So my website is rpm-ministry.com. RPM, Resurrection Power Marriage -ministry.com. They can go there, and I have some other sites. I also have a blog that I write. That's under gps-to-a-joyfulmarriage.com, and I have kinds of articles on marriage.
Yeah, and they can pick up your book. Just go to your website.
They can pick up my book. Yes, yep, and it's there, yes. And I also have another book, When Superheroes Fall, which came out before that, and it's the whole story of how God saved our marriage.
Ooh, totally awesome. And you got to get the two of them together. Yes. Well, this has been so fabulous. Thank you so much for coming to share this very important information. Before we leave, what's one piece of advice you would give any marriage couple out there?
I would say pray together every day with your spouse. That will make a huge difference. That's what started my husband and I on the right path. We started praying together.
Yay!
Yep.
They always say a family that prays together stays together.
Absolutely. And here's what I'll leave you with. I saw this on Oprah Winfrey a number of years ago. They did a survey that couples that pray together have a better sex life. Tell that to your husband, and he will start praying with you.
This has been wonderful, Sandee. Thank you for coming to Savvy Business Radio.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. I enjoyed it too.
Welcome to the Racing to Success Minute with Nadine Lajoie. Too many people are afraid to get out of their comfort zone. People are playing small, they don't have enough dreams, enough vision, enough passion, and when they have, people around them discourage them more than enough. So, you really need, if you want to be successful in life, if you want to have more money, more freedom, better relationship, you need to do the extra mile. Like motorcycle racing, that 180 miles per hour, only 1 or 2 miles difference can make you win the race or lose the race. So in life and in business, you need to get out of your comfort zone, live on the edge, and really having the adrenaline and the passion to do it. This is Nadine Lajoie at nadineracing.com.
Carlene Pettit, author of Flight to Success. Be the captain of your life. Inspiration, motivation, and lessons learned Flight to Success is the author's journey through 8 airlines, 7 type ratings, 2 master degrees, and motherhood. Flight to Success, intertwined with her stories, are those of others who share their successes, failures, loss, fears, hopes, and dreams. The secrets correlate with many aspects of flight. If you apply the tips in Flight to Success to your daily life, there is nothing you cannot accomplish. To find out more and get your copy today, visit CarlenePettit, PETITT.com. Now here's our interview with Duana C. Welch. Hi, Duana. Welcome back to Savvy Business Radio. How are you?
Hey, Christina. It's great to be back. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fabulous. After our last conversation on your wonderful book, Love Factually, 10 Proven Steps from I Wish to I Do, we had a wonderful conversation after the interview where we talked about some points that we didn't get to cover in our first interview. And that was really touching on the whole idea of divorce, cohabiting versus getting married. What are the differences? Because it's really not something people talk about very much. And more people are thinking, well, maybe I won't do the marriage thing. You know, the marriage costs a lot as far as doing the wedding. And then if it doesn't work out, I got to pay for the divorce. Maybe I'll just do the cohabiting, living with someone. That's probably a better option. But your research actually showed otherwise. So share a little bit about what you found out regarding cohabiting versus marriage. Why is marriage or one better than the other?
It's not necessarily true that one is better than the other. That really depends on who you are. And I want to emphasize that what I do is I coalesce a lot of other people's excellent scientific research, and I then make it understandable, comprehensible to lots of people who aren't in research fields. So this is not necessarily data that I've collected, it's data that others have collected. So I want to talk about the research specifically of a scientist named Linda Welch. She's a sociologist in Chicago. And really, I agree with her based on my reading of her and other people's research that whether you should cohabit or get married instead is largely a matter of what it is you want.
What does that mean exactly?
Say that what you really want is a lot of freedom. You want to be able to spend your money the way you want to spend it. You don't want to have to check in with anybody else about how to spend it. You want to decide how to use your free time. You don't want to have to check in with other people about what you're doing with your free time. You want somebody who's in the house with you sharing expenses, who can be kind of your fallback plan for going out to dinner or the movies. But at the same time, if they got sick, you do not necessarily want to have to hang in there through a final illness. Kind of a roommate with sexual benefits.
Yeah. Okay.
So if that's what people want, clearly cohabiting is by far the better relationship for them.
Yeah.
So it's funny because some people who've read my book have said, oh, well, you're just against cohabiting. And that's actually not true. In fact, before I'd read any research on it, but the reason I didn't want to do cohabiting is because I wanted to be married and I didn't see any reason to live in with somebody or maybe buy property with them and then have, the whole relationship possibly just fall apart and not know if I was ever going to get married. And I just saw it as really inconvenient and risky. But I actually believed personally that cohabiting first was probably a safer way to move toward marriage. It just didn't feel right for me. Then I started reading science about it. What was fascinating was the science showed that, first of all, most people today view dating as an introduction to cohabiting, and they view cohabiting as a way to test whether marriage will work. In other words, they view cohabiting as marriage light. Whereas what science shows is cohabiting is a separate and unequal, totally different institution. That cohabiting does not in any way, not even one way, prepare you for marriage. And that in fact, the more people you cohabit with prior to marriage, the longer you cohabit with your future marriage partner, both of these things predict a shorter, less happy marriage that's more likely to end in divorce.
I was really fascinated by those results. I didn't expect it at all because my understanding was this would be a great idea to get married. To cohabit with each other, see if you're really a good fit, really get in tune with each other's quirks and see, hey, are we going to be able to mesh together on the long run? Because dating's one thing. Living in the same household is a whole other thing. You begin to see things that, okay, I don't want to tolerate that. And do I want to spend the next however long it could be
in a marriage, dealing with it. So it seemed like a good option. Why has research found that actually cohabiting longer with a prospective husband or wife actually turn out to the results of a higher divorce rate?
All of your points that you just made are excellent. I mean, I could talk about any of them for the next hour, but we don't have that long. I want to start by saying that I completely agree with you. The logic that people have going into this makes sense to me. But there are more than 24 studies done in the United States, Canada, I think some of the far northern European countries as well. And not one of them agrees with our logic. Not one. 100% of the research finds that the longer you live with your mate prior to marriage, the more likely you are to be unhappy after marriage and to get divorced. So it's just, even though it sounds so seductive, it's just cohabiting is a different thing. Why is it a different thing? Well, that seems to have to do with the mentality that you have going into cohabiting versus marriage. It turns out that usually when a couple cohabits, especially if it's in a heterosexual couple, the man usually brings up the idea, hey, let's live together. And the woman normally what she hears, and I know this sounds glib, but this is really what the science shows. She translates let's live together into let's get married someday. And ladies, he didn't ask you to get married someday. He said let's live together. And what science shows is he meant let's live together, full stop.
Oh, forever.
Yeah, if he had meant, well, maybe not forever. All he said was, let's live together. He didn't say how long. He didn't say if it was going anywhere else. You need to take the statement at face value.
So there's no like, he's not, and it's interesting because my women friend is like, he played me. He never meant to go any further, but you're saying he didn't. He told you the truth. He just said, let's live together. You're the one that attached, and that means forever, AKA marriage later on. That was never put forth.
Yeah, men know how to propose to women. It's not a mystery. Yeah. If they had wanted to say, let's get married instead, or let's live together and then let's get married, they would have said those things. You don't need to read their minds. Men say what they mean, which is actually, when you think about it, a wonderful thing. Most men, most of the time, say what they mean. So if he didn't attach marriage to this statement, then he wasn't attaching any more commitment to the statement than as if he had said, let's have sex on tap and share our expenses. That's all he said. Yeah. So part of what's going on is there's really a mismatch of expectations for a tremendous number of cohabitors, where the female in the relationship is thinking this is going down, this is marriage light. This is heading toward I do. And then the guy is thinking, this is great. I love being with this person. He's in the now is what I'm saying. Yeah. It's not necessarily that he's intentionally, willfully taking advantage of you. It's just that he's in the now. He's thinking, this is a lot of fun. Let's keep doing it. Let's do it at closer range.
Yeah. And why are we thinking about tomorrow? I'm here right now. Why think about a year, 10 years, 5 years? And I did this myself with my partners. Like, so I want to have the sit down meeting. Okay, where is this going in like a year or 5 years? Do you see the marriage thing happening, babies? And they're like, whoa. I didn't talk about that. Why are we even going there?
Yeah. And women, whoever you are out there listening, I want you to have what you want. My real purpose in all my work dealing with relationship science, whether I'm talking to a client, whether I'm answering an email that someone in the general public has sent, and I answer them all, by the way, whether I'm teaching a group class, whether I'm teaching a class about relationship science, whether I'm writing for my blog, appearing on your podcast, whatever I'm doing, all of it is aimed at helping you, whoever you are, get what you want. And I do have an emphasis on long-term relating. That's what I deal with. I don't deal with playing the field. There are plenty of people who do, and I'm not opposed to their work. But there's a reason my book's called Love Factually, 10 Proven Steps for My Wish to I Do. My readers and listeners, male and female, tend to be people who want to get married, and they want to get married to the right person, and they want to have it work out. And what I'm telling you is, first of all, one reason that cohabiting tends to be a raw deal is that many people who are cohabiting actually want marriage. They don't really want what cohabiting offers. Cohabiting offers freedom. It doesn't offer commitment. And if you want commitment, there is an institution for that, and that institution is marriage. And how we know that as scientists is there's a group that cohabits but doesn't pay what I call the cohabitation penalty, the penalty of having a shorter, less happy marriage that culminates in divorce. And that group is people who were already engaged when they started cohabiting. In other words, they didn't move in to test out their commitment. They were fully committed when they moved in. They just moved in because they thought, you know what, we're already married in our hearts. Let's go ahead and live together while we get excited about and plan for our wedding. Those folks don't pay any penalty for cohabiting. So it's not like cohabiting is morally wrong or God's going to damn your marriage if you cohabit. I'm not coming at this from a moral standpoint. I'm coming at this from very much from a standpoint of decide what you want and then behave accordingly. If what you want is freedom and you don't want to eventually marry this person and you're not trying to see whether this is going to result in something more and you just want to share expenses and have sex on tap, cohabiting absolutely is its own institution, and that's the institution for you. But if what you really want is the whole enchilada, if what you want is an endless time horizon where you know who you're going to spend every New Year's Eve with, and you want the deep comfort and security that comes from knowing that this person loves you, come what may, that if you got cancer, this person is there for you and is not thinking, oh my God, they got cancer, what a raw deal that I have to be here now, but instead is thinking, oh my God, I want to help you. If that's what you want, cohabiting is a raw deal. It's a raw deal. It does not in any way prepare you for or test the validity of your relationship. The reason for that seems to be the time horizon. When you're cohabiting, you are living with a time horizon that is just for now. For example, would it be smart for cohabitors to buy a house together? Not if they don't have a wedding date set. That's not smart. Would it be smart for cohabitors to have a child together? Let me tell you, the number of letters I've gotten from women and men where they had a child while cohabiting, and the man quickly determined that he had never wanted that level of commitment. Marriage is for the forever. Don't test out forever by using for now, because what research shows happens is people tend to have a hard time moving their headspace out of for now and into forever. If you practice for now, then once you commit forever, you tend to have that for now mentality, which means that you tend to have the mentality that if things go wrong, you can just leave.
Essence, what I'm carrying from all of this is really that cohabiting, living together, is really set from the mindset of non-commitment. That it's what I want now. It's about being in the now. And basically, I want to be free to just, leave when I want. And that's okay if that's what you really want. I think, and what I'm also pulling from you is that this requires for each person going through the decision to be honest with really, truly, what do you want? Do you really want just for now and think no further? Or do you really want forever?
That's right. Yeah. I met with a group of therapists recently. And by the way, I'm not a therapist. I'm a social scientist who applies social science to people's daily lives. But I was meeting with a group of therapists, one of whom has been living with the same man for a long time. And I think her level of commitment to him is a marriage level, but I think she has misunderstood his level of commitment to her. And I'm telling you, these are two therapists who are together. And she said she didn't like that chapter in my book because she felt like that what she had was like a marriage with her partner. And I said, has he set up his retirement so that when he dies, you get all of his benefits? And there was silence in the room. He had not done that. I said, has he left all his assets to you in the event of his death? Silence. He had not done that. Look, when you get married, you don't just commit for now, you actually commit for the rest of time, in the sense that my husband and I have set up our retirement so that we take, he's currently retired. I'm not anywhere near it, but where he takes less money in retirement every month, knowing that the reason he's benefiting less from his retirement is so that his beloved will benefit for the rest of her life when he passes. That's a very different mindset. Marriage is not about for now. It's not even about just for while we're married. It's about when I die, I am protecting you.
Wow, it is tremendously huge. And we spoke about this in our first conversation after we finished our interview, that I had two interesting things. Boss, where one boss was married for 25 years and another boss who was living with her partner for 20 years. And both of them had a major illness happen to their husbands. One got off from work and was able to take time off, of course, when her husband got sick, because it's your husband. And everyone understands the level of commitment that this isn't a fly-by-now relationship. This is your beloved. This is your husband. Go take the time you need. Now, the other woman who had lived with her boyfriend for 20 years, they were like, well, he's sick. He had a heart attack. He's dying. Well, that's too bad. He's just a little friend. And so, it's not only just mindset that people have going into this, that it's just for now. It's also the way society sees both cohabiting and marriage. Am I right?
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Christina. We don't have our relationships in a vacuum. Our relationships are a social contract, actually. And science very much shows that that's the case. Sociology views marriage as an institution that is part of the social contract that we have, not just with our marriage partner, but with all the people around us. And if you simply cohabit, the social contract you have with everyone in society is, we can leave at any time. There's no commitment here. That's what other people hear, because they have not been asked to enter the contract with you where they vow to support and uphold the duration of your marriage. I had a secular marriage. It wasn't a religious marriage. And yet part of the ceremony was geared toward asking everyone present, did they agree to help us support and maintain our marriage in the tough times? There is a social contract there.
Wow.
When you move in, there's no social contract. The rest of society has not agreed to honor or support or respect any aspect of your union. And what I'm guessing is, I'm guessing this based on data about women and men in general, I feel very sad for your colleague who was cohabiting and people didn't honor her union. And the reason I feel sad for her is she probably felt a marital level of commitment, but the guy she was with somehow didn't. And so she basically lost her husband. But since he never made that level of commitment, society didn't either. Basically, by moving in and treating it as a marriage, she got the worst of all possible worlds. She took 100% of the risk of marriage. She gave up her options for other partners. She invested herself fully in this relationship. She probably bought property with him. She may have given up the option of having children in that relationship. She took all of the risk and she got zero benefit. I will bet you he didn't take a lower level of money in his job so that she would be protected forever. I will bet you she wasn't on his health insurance. I will bet you that he didn't introduce her as his wife everywhere that they went. She didn't have any of the security. She had all the risk and none of the reward. And then when he died, she didn't get any of the appropriate social support that comes to married people. It's a raw deal. Again, it's not a raw deal if what you wanted was simply to have a low risk, easy exit scenario. But I bet you that's not what she wanted. That's just what he wanted.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally felt from the way she talked about him that it was someone that's not just a common partner that I'm just living with for fun. It was someone that is indeed her husband. And that was the first time the cohabiting versus marriage light opened up for me, and I thought, what's wrong with people here? Why aren't they respecting her and her partnership? And it just bothered me because I thought it was just wrong. But you can't change the way society's set up and the way we kind of have a preconceived notion of the way things should be. And you're right. For when you make the commitment, you just stand before society and say, hey, we are committing to each other, and we're asking you to also help us honor that. That is way different than just saying one day, I'm just, hey, buddy, let's just move in together.
The reason people treat your relationship with greater gravity when you get married is you have made a commitment. When you move in, you have not made a commitment. I mean, the truth is you can leave at any time. And the truth is other people are not likely to acknowledge that as being particularly serious. The first time I thought about this, way before I'd read any science on it, was when I was a new professor at Cal State Fullerton. And Governor Gray Davis was the governor at the time. And California had just decided on a statewide level to have domestic partner benefits, but they said that you could only share your benefits with a domestic partner if you were in a same-sex relationship. And the governor was questioned about this, and this is in the right around the year 2000.
Okay.
And what Governor Davis said about it was, well, yeah, of course it's only available to same-sex couples. They can't get married. He said, if you're just playing house, I'm not interested in giving you these benefits. Those of you who can get married, and you can get your benefits.
Wow. But he was talking about it's not possible for same-sex people to do that.
At that time, it wasn't.
Yeah.
The possibility of same-sex people marrying and having it stick is really much more recent than when Governor Davis was the governor. So he basically was saying, I'm acknowledging the commitment level of the relationship. Since many, many gay and lesbian domestic partners would be married if they could be, I'm allowing them to share their benefits. I'm not going to do that for straight people. They have an institution that allows them to share benefits. It's called marriage. Make a real commitment.
Yeah, you're right. It makes sense.
I'm happily married for 8 years. Every one of those years has been immensely better than any year I spent dating ever. Most people, most of the time, experience that. The current divorce rate is not what most people think it is. Most people think it's 50-50. The current divorce rate is showing that 2/3 of people married since the year 2000 are staying married for a lifetime. We've got the lowest marriage rates in history right now. We have the lowest numbers of people who even ever want to get married in history. So, and the reason that people want to get married, especially women, is not just the way we're socialized. It's bone deep. It's rooted in our inherited mating psychology from our ancient ancestors. Women who have one partner and then another partner and then another partner have lower survival rates and are much poorer even today even in developed nations, than women who are married. So I think that we've gone from this idea of marriage being entirely good to this idea that marriage actually is terrifying, scary. You should live together first because it's so terrifying and scary. I would like folks to get a very different memo. And the memo is this: marriage is not nearly as much work as being single or being divorced or cohabiting or any of the rest of it. Marriage is the easiest one of the adult lifestyles. It has the best results. Science could not be clearer on this. And the key is to find and be the right partner. Be someone kind and respectful. Find someone kind and respectful. Find someone who matches you on all the important core dimensions of your value system and who you additionally enjoy, who brings out your best. And if you find that person, don't live with them as a test. Marry them. And I want to speak especially to women right now, because I suspect that's most of your audience.
Yes.
You may have concluded from all of this that the best strategy for you is to make sure that when your boyfriend suggests cohabiting, moving in together, that you say, well, are we ever going to get married? That is a terrible strategy. It puts a lot of pressure on him. If marriage is not his idea, then what he hears is, would you like to sign on for me? I'm a total ankle weight, and I really am going to be a burden to you. You want a man who considers you a joy, not a job. For reasons I go into in my book, which we probably don't have time to go into today, men have both the burden and the right of pursuit. If you are pursuing them, meaning if you are bringing up meeting your parents, if you are the one suggesting sex, if you're the one saying yes to sex right away, if you're the one initiating phone calls, initiating texts, initiating suggestions of when to get together, and God forbid, if you're the one suggesting getting married, you are perceived as low status, clingy, dependent, and desperate. And I know it's not fair, and I know it's not politically correct, but it is true. I have clients every week. 80% of my clients are men. That may surprise you that 80% of the people who will pay me $125 an hour to consult with them about their relationships are guys. But guys value science. And I will tell you, I've never yet had a guy who said, I really wish a woman would propose to me and make this all really easy for me. They want to pursue the woman that they want. And in fact, I have a lot of male clients who their big problem is that the woman in their life will not back off and let him figure out whether he wants this. If you want marriage, the easiest way to get it is to refuse to move in. Don't tell him why, and let him figure out whether or not he wants to marry you. If he doesn't, he will continue suggesting a move-in without suggesting marriage. If he does want marriage, he will suggest marriage.
Wow. Now, can I ask you about the sex card? Is it something you should hold back on if you want a serious relationship into marriage? What's your take on that?
Well, again, my take is always based on science. What the science very strongly suggests, and what I'd like to emphasize is the scientists that I write about, whose research that I review and write about, I actually gave them a copy of my book before it went to press so that they could tell me if I'd gotten it right. So the best scientists in the world have endorsed what I am about to say to you. Scientifically, women are better off being hard to get sexually and in other ways. And the reason for that is if a man is playing with you or if a man really wants commitment, how are you going to know if you have sex right away? If, on the other hand, you wait to have sex, the players are going to leave. They're not interested in that. They're going to go play with someone else. Refusing to have sex for a little while doesn't make men fall in love with you. What it does is it creates a tipping point. It tips out the men who really just wanted a booty call and a friend with benefits, and it tips in the men who want something more substantial. It is the easiest way that you have to immediately jettison men who were just playing. Also, tipping points, what they do is they make people fall in love harder and faster who were so inclined. So you not only jettison men who are players, but the men who are likely to fall in love with you will fall harder and faster as a result of waiting. And there are a number of studies that show that this happens at even the most basic biological level, at the level of the neurotransmitters that his brain releases in response to not having sex with you.
Wow. That is so insightful. And this recalls for me in my past relationship that I was pushing a lot for a result and I would get the opposite. When I stopped pushing, that's when the guy would pursue harder because they're like, okay, you're not pushing me. I can now do my job and pursue you. And also vice versa with my beloved now. When I held off on being intimate for a year and a half, that just strengthened our relationship. And it makes total sense that the people who are really serious in a commitment will stick around, whereas the people who are like, I'm not waiting a year and a half or even 6 months.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's interesting because I have a case study in my book that I've lived out in real life with clients and people who've written to me for years now, which is a woman who the guy was really excited. He was talking marriage when they moved in, and then she moved in and all discussion of marriage from his standpoint just stopped.
Wow.
Because his sense of urgency was gone. And so this woman and many other women have written to me saying, you know, what gives? I don't know how to move forward with this. I've tried bringing it up and I've thought about giving ultimatums, and the power that a woman has in order to create a sense of urgency and find out whether a man will ever commit joyfully or will not is to leave. It's not to ask him for commitment. So I said, here's what you do. And it's scary as heck. But what you do is you tell him, you know what? I just don't think that this relationship is working out for me. I am looking for a place to live, and I wanted to give you notice that you are going to need to either find another roommate or you're going to need to handle the bills on your own in about 30 days.
Yeah.
And I said, if he wants to marry you, he will connect with that desire and that need fairly quickly. And I bet you won't even get your bags packed, but start packing them. You know, this is not a bluff. You have to really do it. And I said, on the other hand, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying this will make him marry you. I'm saying this will move you off dead center. You'll find out whether he would ever have married you.
You'll find out the truth. Yes.
You'll find out the truth. Look, women, God, I hate this so much.
Yeah.
I am frequently accused of teaching women how to be manipulative, but honest to gosh, how manipulative is it to keep living with a guy for years, trying to cajole, plead, beg, and whine your way into marriage? That's very manipulative, ladies.
Yes. And how low does it put us out there? I mean, as you said, it makes you desperate and all. It's not a pretty sight. And we're worth more than that, women. We are. Yeah, Christina, you're tapping into what I really wish I'd said in the book, and I didn't. But my next book will say it for sure. Being hard to get is about respecting yourself. It's not something that we really talk about, cohabiting versus marriage, that ever got touched in our show or frankly anywhere else I've listened. So I'm really grateful you came back to talk about all this. Please let folks know where they can find out more about you, get your book.
Sure. Yeah, it was a great pleasure to be on. And you're right. Hardly anyone talks about this. It needs to be talked about. You can find more information about me and my book at Amazon.com. You type in my name or you type in the title of my book, Love Factually with an F. Love Factually. And it's available in audio, book, ebook, and paperback there. Or you can go to lovefactually.co and learn more and get a free chapter.
Yes, it's a tremendous book. I read it, guys. You must get it today. And again, I want to touch that this is not about being manipulative. This is truly about respecting yourselves. And it's truly important for both men and women. So again, I want to thank you, Duana, for coming and sharing this very valuable information today.
Thank you.
Join our mailing list today by texting Savvy Radio to find out about upcoming guests and events and receive a free gift, how podcasting can help increase sales and influence in your business.